The College Basketball Experience Horizon League 24-25 Season Preview Edition of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with our promo code TCESGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. Promo code TCESGPN. And we are also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing your college football and NFL with Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM today. Welcome, everybody, into the College Basketball Experience Horizon League edition. Oh, boy, we love the Horizon League. This is a great basketball league, and they got an NCAA tournament win last year. Shout out to the Oakland Grizzlies getting it done over Big Blue Nation. We will go team by team, give out our winner, or give out our conference winner, our postseason winner. We'll talk about who we think could be a sleeper, a bust. Oh, we got it all for you here on the Horizon. Triple header over here at the College Basketball Experience. But first, I am Moneyline Mac, a.k.a. the former video coordinator for Bob Huggins and Greg. Also known as Mac Tonight, baby. And joining me, well, this guy lives in Horizon League country, baby. He is the window-banging, drywall-hanging, LeBaron driving Noah Bieniek, a.k.a. Noah B77. What up, man?
The Horizon Maniac himself. Yes, they're all in my backyard. I love this league of so-called low majors. This one's my favorite one. Just a lot of, a lot of late game heroics, I would say, in this conference. I remember 2 years ago, Cleveland State's run through the tournament was insane. And yeah, Oakland is the closest in proximity D1 university to my place of residence. And they went out and got a dub over Big Blue Nation. I doubted them. I had a couple of buddies on that team. I didn't talk to them. I left them alone, but I was like, I can't imagine like these guys beating Kentucky. Like, really? They went out and did it, and I was eating crow. But
you know, who was on it? Remember, I went on VSiN and they looked at me like I had like 6 heads ago. Watch out, Oakland's going to shock the world and beat Kentucky tomorrow with all that experience.
I know.
That's a Golden baby.
I called it though in the preseason. I said that the Horizon League was going to win a tournament game last year. I thought they were going to be like a 15 or 16 seed and get the win. They were a 14 seed. They got the W. Shit. I had it Wright State though. Like I was high on that Wright State Raiders squad last year with the two power conference guards. Colby predicted Milwaukee to win the regular season title. I had Wright State to win the tournament. Colby had Cleveland State to win the tournament. And then we got distracted because we were also doing a Cleveland State team preview on the Horizon League conference preview last year because Chicago State was a independent team. So it distracted us a little bit. We didn't do sleeper or bust, but this conference is a ton of fun. One of my favorites each and every season. This year, at the top of the standings, according to KenPom's power ratings, 7 teams within 3 games of each other at the top. Mac, another one of these fun leagues. I can't wait to dissect it. How about you?
Yeah, and I'm just doing a quick glance. So Fort Wayne leads the pack over there on KenPom. So good thing we waited till KenPom release so that we could dive into their ratings on this great Horizon League. Bart Torvik likes Northern Kentucky. So already disagreement at the top from the 2 biggest analytics site, which means this league's going to be wide open. And it usually is in this league. I mean, Oakland, of course, has probably been for the most part, the best consistent program
I
under
don't know.
Greg.
Wright State in Northern Kentucky has been pretty good too.
Yes, but I would say Kampe's just been there the longest too. Youngstown has all of a sudden emerged over the last couple of years. Jared Calhoun lifted that thing up to new heights, something that they had never seen at Youngstown. But he goes over to Utah State. Now comes Ethan Faulkner, promoted within. So a lot of moving parts in this league. Green Bay, they lose Sundance Wicks after just 1 year, where they overachieved. Doug Gottlieb's in this league.
Yeah.
So you got a bunch of different headlines, and of course, will the hospital Detroit Mercy win the league outright this year?
Oh boy. Yeah, speaking of coaching, I mean, the summer school coaches tour with Mac was rolling right on through the Horizon League during the summer and the early fall. Mac, who'd you interview from this conference?
So I had Jon Coffman from Fort Wayne. He loves his team, and rightfully so. I mean, we talked about it there at the top. They got a bunch of production coming back. And then the other one, I had Clint Sargent from Wright State on. So I had Scott Nagy on, who was there for the last decade plus. He goes over to Southern Illinois. His assistant slides right in. And then I had a couple other guys scheduling just didn't work out, but we're going to have them on in the future. So we definitely this was the first year we did the coaches tour, just having different coaches on, and we will obviously take that to another level next year, just like we do with everything on this network.
Nagy was only there for 8 years, but
close enough. Round up.
Before we jump into doing team by team previews, alphabetical order in the Horizon League, we're calling upon you guys, the listeners, the viewers here on YouTube, to help support those in need. I know Colby has always used the phrase like, hey, we've received a lot of tips through the YouTube, a lot of people saying, hey, next streak on me type stuff. We would like that to go to mountainprojects.org, where we've set up a fundraiser for those in need in Western North Carolina that are currently going through a ton of hurricane damage, and they need all the help they can get, because that area is not one of the areas on the Atlantic coast that is well barriered and guarded up and prepared for hurricane weather. So they got hit pretty hard, and we're doing our best. And for the highest donator that comments that they are from the SGPN family, when you do donate, comment that you're from SGPN, and if you're one of the highest donators, you will be featured on the College Football Picks show for one of the weeks coming up on the Sports Gambling Podcast. So yeah, if you could help us out, that would be tremendous. Also, if you want to continue to help us out for free and without donating, you can always drop a like on this YouTube video, hit subscribe, also leave a like, rating, review, subscribe over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to. Give a 5-star rating. Only you guys can prevent corporate gambling from taking over. The Cleveland State Vikings are the first program up in alphabetical order for us today. Last season, as I'm pulling up standings, I totally forgot. I whiffed on this.
I got you. Cleveland State finished 21-15. The year before that, they were also won 21 games. So year 3 of Danielle Robinson doing a good job over there.
Yeah, so 21-15 overall, 11-9 in the Horizon League. That was good for 7th.
Yep.
This team from last year, they lose 3 starters. Tristan Enaruna, 19.5 points per game, 6.5 boards, 2.5 dimes. He's gone, unfortunately, out of eligibility. Another 30-minute per game guy in Drew Lauder, who averaged 11.5, 2.5, and 3 assists per game. Tay Williams, who played 28.5 minutes, averaged 12.8 points, 6 boards, 2 assists, is also out of eligibility. TJ Moss out of eligibility, and transferring out was Jason Woodruff, who played 21 minutes per game, averaged 8 points, 3 boards. Paxton Payne, Ramar Pryor, and Doak Mordar joined him in the transfer portal. Coming in via the transfer portal is Taj Stavesky, coming in from Canisius. He only played 2 games for the Golden Griffs last season. Averaged 10.5 points, 4 boards, 4.5 assists, 1 steal in 33.5 minutes in those 2 games. Solid player. And then Tevin Smith returns. He's a senior after putting up 8 points, 4 boards per game in 24 minutes. Also coming in from the transfer portal is Abrima Dibba from South Carolina and Isaac Abidi from Wichita State. Both of those guys didn't play too many minutes a season ago, expected to play a big role in this Cleveland State team this season. They do bring back 3 other guys that played at least 20 minutes per game last season. Like I said, Tevin Smith, Dylan Arnett, who's a 6'9 junior in the front court, and Chase Robinson, a 6'1 senior. Overall, Mac, pretty experienced roster here, in my opinion. A lot of seniors. This is a 5th place team when it comes to experience in the preseason, according to Bart Torvik. What are your thoughts on the Cleveland State Vikings this season?
Yeah, so year 3 of Robinson, like I alluded to, took over for Dennis Gates. And for the most part, they've done a solid job. Back-to-back 21-win seasons. You mentioned it. They're in the top-ish or top half of returning production. I like what they bring back for the most part. I think this is going to be kind of in the middle of year 1 and 2 in terms of where they finish in the standings. But I think they're going to, from a win standpoint, be around the same. So give me Cleveland State to be a top 4 team in the Horizon this year. I like the roster for the most part.
I'm going to be relatively reserved on Danielle Robinson's 3rd year here. Replacing 3 starters from last season is certainly something. The first year with a lot of the leftovers from Dennis Gates, he did pretty well, offense and defense in the top half of the league. Last year, there was a dip off. This year, it's pretty much like all his roster, and I'm going to need to see a little bit more from him. I like the backcourt and Stavesky and Tevin Smith, but this is probably a middle-of-the-pack team for me. We move on to the next team in alphabetical order is the Detroit Mercy Titans, the hospital. Went over some coaching turnover here as they have a new head man, former Michigan State assistant Mark Montgomery, a.k.a. Monty. He joins and he brings in 2 Eastern Michigan transfers and Orlando Lovejoy. This is a great get for Detroit Mercy. He's a junior point guard who averaged 3 assists, 3 boards, and almost 10 points per game in 31.7 minutes with the Eagles last season. They also bring in from Eastern Michigan Legend Jeter, legendary name. Let's say that. Redshirt junior who played 20 minutes a game, 5.5 points, 3.5 boards, 1.5 assists, shot at 43% from deep, 48% from the field. And then this guy was a guy that I was high on, never really got in last season. I don't think he was approved eligibility. Alex Chaku, he was brought in from Coach Davis from Rhode Island. He was at Alabama previously, where Davis had recruited him to the Crimson Tide. Davis, of course, fired after last season, but Chaku's still on the roster, and he is a great piece for this roster. I really do believe that. A lot of the roster turned over. They lost, I think it was 11 guys from last season, but they do return Chaku. They return Ryan Hurst, who played 31.5 minutes a game last season, 12.5 points, 4 boards, and Mac Mansell in the backcourt, a 6'3 senior, 20 minutes per game, 5 points per game, 2 boards per game. Mac, what are your thoughts on Mark Montgomery and the Detroit Titans?
Well, first, it can't be worse than last year. 1-31. The Davis era ends. Thank God for Detroit fans. I like the hire. I like Montgomery being a Sparty guy, so somewhat of a Michigan man, bringing that culture over to Detroit. Much needed. He spent a decade at Northern Illinois, and arguably his best team was the COVID year, so they didn't get to finish that when they won the MAC. But for the most part, they were around a 500 team in his time there in the MAC after taking it on the chin his first 2 years. The roster, a lot of unknowns, clearly. I mean, when you go 1-31, there's no reason to bring anybody back. So I think this is going to be a work in progress, but I think Detroit fans, I think you got the right guy for this job, in my opinion. Just already being a head coach for 10 years, being a Tom Izzo guy. So, yeah, I'm high on the hire for the long term. I don't think they'll be in the basement. I don't think they'll be the last place team. So that's a positive for you Detroit Mercy fans this year.
I'm high on the hire for the now. You look at Dwayne Stevens, another disciple of Tom Izzo, last season going 12-20 overall, 9-9 in the MAC. They finished in the top half of the conference. I see a positive outcome for this Detroit team. And yeah, I know I'm pretty damn close to the situation. But look, I'm a Michigan guy, but I can realize that, Tom Izzo disciples in the state of Michigan have done all right. And like Max said, Montgomery's got some coaching experience. I see a world where this team climbs out of the basement in the Horizon League list this year. Look, Orlando Lovejoy was a real contributor to that Eastern Michigan team last season. Doubled 9.8 points per game, 3 boards, 2.8 assists in the MAC. And like I said, they also bring in Legend Jeter and Alex Chaku, are both mid-major transfers that are transferring down to make a little bit more of an impact. I question some depth. There's a lot of freshmen. Mark Montgomery probably looking to build this program up for a little bit, for a couple of years. But for this current year, I don't think they finish in last, which is definitely a step up for Detroit.
100%.
And like Max said, like it's hard to be worse than they were last year. So I see this as a positive season in Detroit, in the suburbs. The hospital. Before we continue on with the rest of the Horizon League preview, the college basketball experience is brought to you by Underdog, where their pick'em has one of the biggest menus for all sports: NFL, college football, MMA, MLB, WNBA, NASCAR, college basketball. When the season comes around, their lobby is jam-packed with profit boosts, and now you can use all these profit boosts and specials on flexed entries. Sign up today with the promo code TCESGPN and claim your special pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. And we're back here on the college basketball experience, previewing the Horizon League basketball conference in alphabetical order. The next team up for us, Mac, is the Fort Wayne Mastodons. And look, you said it. You had, or were lucky to be graced by the what am I looking for?
Coach Coffman.
The presence of Coach Kaufman during the summer in an interview, and they returned a ton of production. I know you touched on it a little bit, but anything that you wanted to talk about before we jump into this year's roster?
I mean, it's the main thing is that they are coming off a year last year where they finished. I'm drawing a blank on exactly what
last year they were
23 wins. Yep.
23-13 overall, 11-9 in conference, in the middle of the pack last year.
Yeah, and they bring back 63% of their production, including 7 out of their top core guys from a year ago. So they have the right guys in place coming back.
They only lose one starter.
Yeah, and Kaufman's just done a really good job over his tenure there. He's won 180 games in 10 years. So you do the math. He's averaging 18 wins a year. He's been kind of just a model of consistency out there in Fort Wayne, always having that team competitive and in the hunt. So they've done a good job with their NIL, surprisingly, as well at Fort Wayne. So
in the state of Indiana, the recruiting is important.
Exactly. And they have that program in a good spot headed into the 24-25 season.
Awesome. Yeah. And like you said, they only really lose. So they lose their third leading scorer from last season. Just one starter. That was Anthony Roberts, who played 32 minutes, averaged 13.5 points, 5.8 boards, 1.5 assists, 1.7 steals per game. They also lose Destin Whitaker, Keon Miller, Coy Thurman, and Jermaine Coleman to the transfer portal. The returning starters for this team, though, Jalen Jackson, a 6'2 junior who played 30 minutes per game, averaged 15.7 points, 4.5 boards, 2.5 assists, 1.5 steal. per game. Also, we're looking at Rashid Bello, who played 32.5 minutes. He's a senior guard, 6 foot, flat, 15 points per game, 3 boards, 4.3 assists, almost 2 steals per game. And also in the backcourt, Quentin Morton Robinson, a 5'8 graduate senior, 29.5 minutes last season, 13 points, 3 boards, 2.5 assists per game, over 1 steal per game. And they also returned their center, Eric Mulder, 6'8 junior, who played 25 minutes last season, averaged 6.5 and 7.5 boards, shot at 69.7% from the field. Nice. So, yeah, this is a very experienced roster, played a ton together last season. For me, Fort Wayne is definitely going to be a title contender this year. They do bring in 3 transfers. Chandler Cuthrell from UTSA, who played 15 minutes last season for the Roadrunners, a 6'7 forward, average 5 and 4.5. They also bring in Davion Laverne from JUCO Lee Junior College, who averaged 13.5 points, 3 rebounds per game, 3 assists per game. And Trey Lewis coming in from Loyola Chicago after playing 5 minutes per game there last season. Matt, I have these guys as a title contender in the Horizon League this year.
Absolutely. And Kaufman's won in this league too, like I said. And to bring back their core of guards, Bello, Robertson, and Jackson, then you got Mulder in the middle as well. So you're bringing back experience at the guard position and with your big. The biggest thing, and Kaufman talked about it, is maybe some expectations this year. He thought he didn't do a good enough job 3 years ago between 22 and 23 where they brought back some guys and they kind of took a step back and were in the middle of the pack. He said he pushed them harder this offseason, and it wasn't more so, I don't know, getting complacent sometimes with college athletes. So he said he pushed them harder than he ever has, even though they have this talented roster coming back. So he loves his team, and I like his team a lot too. They're right there to win the league for me as well.
Good stuff. Next up for us in alphabetical order is the Green Bay Phoenix. And Mac, before we even touch on the roster, I have a question for you. So, in the daily schedule of a college basketball coach, look, a lot of college basketball coaches, for the record, do some 1-hour radio shows. And do I believe that Doug Gottlieb is doing all the research and actually prepping for his radio shows, knowing that he's being the head college basketball coach? No, I don't think so. And if he did prior, I don't think he's going to do that now. There's probably a guy or two behind the scenes that are doing the work for him in that point. And he's going to stack of papers in front of the microphone that he can work off of. I admit I've never watched a Doug Gottlieb radio show, never listened to one. But Mac, can you be a Division I college basketball coach while also having a day job?
No. And don't get me wrong, man. I respect the creativity from Green Bay in terms of let's try and get a little NIL. But dude, it's kind of, in my opinion, it's a slap in the face of dudes that have grinded in this industry to let Gottlieb. If they were going to hire Gottlieb, fine, but don't do your radio too. For example, right now in the background, I got the Jets, Bills, and then I got the Yankees, Indians on. So tomorrow you have to talk about those shows. Now, I guess you could just half-ass that radio gig and not watch it and just go off whatever cliff notes. But I think Gottlieb will probably watch those games. And right now you probably could get away with it just because you're not watching game film. You're not watching game film on Purdue Fort Wayne, Oakland, Wright State. I mean, you got when you're in the college coaching industry, it's not a 9 to 5 show up and show up to practice. Like there's practice preparation, game preparation. How are we going to guard the ball screen? How are we going to attack their switching defense? It's a full-time, it's your livelihood. It's all you think about. And for him to have to do a radio show while monitoring all these other games in the background, the NBA, I'm sure his show covers a lot of NBA. How's he going to have time to watch the NBA while scouting all these Horizon League teams? The answer is he's not. So I don't think he's all in on this gig. I think it was a PR hire, in my opinion. And that's why I don't think they're going to be very good. I am happy that he hired one of my guys, Jordan McCabe. So that is one plus for me with Doug Gottlieb. But on a non-bias, outside looking in, I hate the hire and how they're going about it.
Yeah, and for the record, grab a drink before we get into this roster, because here we go. So
Oh yeah.
transferring out, we've got Elijah Jones, who played 24.5 minutes last season, averaged 8 and 6.5. Noah Reynolds, the star of the team last year, 33.5 minutes, 20 points per game, 3.7 boards, 4.5 assists. He's gone. Rich Byer, Clarence Cummings III was also a key contributor early on in the year, 22.5 minutes per game, 6 points per game, 3.5 boards, almost 2 assists. In the portal, Jacob Antchak, Matt Blanton, David Douglas Jr., Amari Judkins, Garrett Dutro all hit the transfer portal. Coming in from the transfer portal, Isaiah Miranda from Oklahoma State. He is battling a little bit of an off-season injury, but he, a 7'1" center, redshirt sophomore, played 5 minutes for the Pokes last season, averaged 2.5 and 2.5. Anthony Roy, a 6'5" senior from NAIA Langston. He played 28.5 minutes last season, 18.5 points, 5 boards, 1.5 assists for the NAIA squad there. Donovan Santoro transfers in from Providence after only playing 2.5 minutes for them last season. Israeli recruit freshman 6'10" Roy Oselka. Ben Tweedy, an Australian freshman. Ben Basic, a 6'4" freshman. Mac Recchi, 6'5" redshirt freshman, and CJ O'Hara, 6'4" freshman, are on the roster. But the the most anticipated freshman for this Green Bay team is Jeremiah Johnson from Overtime Elite last season. He's going to be paired up in the backcourt with Preston Rudinger, who played 26 minutes a season ago for the Phoenix, 8.5 points, 2.5 boards, 2 assists per game, shot at 36.6% from 3. And Marcus Hall returns in the front court, 6'6" forward. He's a sophomore, played 23 minutes last season, averaged 6.5, 3.5, and over 1 assist per game. Look, my initial opinion on this roster is that I can't be too high on it, because I don't believe that the coaching staff will be all the way invested. Outside of that, I think that there's some talent on this roster, but they're very young. And I think this is a basement squad in the Horizon League, Mac.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, man, there's a ton of moving pieces here. Yeah, there are a couple pieces that you may point to and you like. But the other thing we didn't get in, yes, it's Gottlieb taking over. It's also Doug Gottlieb's first ever Division I head coaching job. Coming over from the media, Field of 68. So there's a ton of moving pieces here. I don't see how you buy into this team year one. And I think Green Bay was on the fortunate side of a lot of tight games last year. I don't think they're going to have the same fortune this year, even though with the coaching change. So, yeah, I will be out on the Phoenix to start the Gottlieb era. He needs to prove it to me. Like I said, it's not a just show up to work, do the minimal type job. I mean, it's everybody's. You don't get graded if you do the job. Everybody does the job. You get graded if you win or lose.
Yeah, I'm with you in that boat. And before we continue on with the rest of the Horizon League preview, SGPN's proud partner Rhythm is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model or copy one of the top-performing ones for the leaderboard. And Rhythm gives you predictions for every game and player prop, and also has a myriad of stats, research, and trend analysis to give you even more betting insights. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. And the college basketball experience is also brought to you by BetUS. Bet with the best in the business, BetUS, who have been around for more than 30 years. Easily deposit using cryptocurrency, and you can get lightning-fast payouts at cash out. U.S. players are always welcome here, and you can sign up and deposit $100 and have a chance to win a 1960 Ford Mustang. Use our link to sign up and get a 125% deposit bonus on your first 3 deposits. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/betus. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/betus. Promo code SGPN so they know we sent you. BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook. And we are back here on the College Basketball Experience, home free, previewing the Horizon League Basketball Conference. Next up for us in alphabetical order today is IU Indy. Yes, name change here for IUPUI. They are now IU Indy, still the Jaguars, but our beloved Jaguars of Ooey Pooey have gone through a coaching change. What?
I said they graduated.
They've gone through a little bit of a coaching change. They, from a source of ours, they grabbed their top target, who was in city. Paul Corsaro was the head coach of the University of Indianapolis, and he brought like his entire roster with him. This was a really good team last year at D2. Mac, I don't know if you have it in front of you, but if you don't, if you could pull it up for me, I totally forgot. But the roster is completely new. They bring in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 transfers from U Indy last season to IU Indy with Paul Corsaro. They have Jarvis Walker, who averaged 13.5 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, shot at 47% from the field from D2 Indy last year. Julian Steinfeld, a 7-foot graduate senior center, who only played 12.5 minutes last season, 4 boards, though, in those 12.5 minutes, shot at 70% from the field when he got his opportunity. Paul Zelinskis from U Indy, he played 27 minutes last season, 12.5 points, 3 boards, 2.5 assists. And Sean Craig also coming in from U Indy, 17.5 minutes last season for, I think they're the I think they're the Greyhounds. I had a buddy that played soccer for U Indy. So Mac, what can you tell us about Paul Corsaro?
Dude, I think it's, first off, I think it's hilarious that they're all coming over from UI Indy to IU Indy. So just flipping the I and U. This guy can coach.
Yes, he can.
17-3 in league last year, 23-9 overall. The year before that, 26-5, 17-3. So back-to-back 17-3s, back-to-back Division II NCAA tournament appearances. Did a good job, man, overall there. 79-37, won 70% of his games. This might be my sleeper in this league, to be honest. I see them coming in, and, I mean, I'm not going to say they're going to be in the top 5, but I definitely do not think they're going to be in the basement with Detroit and Green Bay. So everything I said about Gottlieb and Green Bay's hire, I'm the opposite on this one. I like Corsaro a lot. I think we may have some quality basketball all of a sudden at former Ooey Pooey, now IU Indy.
100%. And I'm high on this I'm high on this hire too, but I'm just trying to make sure we're not high on this hire just because we had a few drinks with some guys that were talking highly about this target that they were trying to get, right?
No, this is a good hire, man. And we've seen
great
it
hire.
With Merrimack. We've seen it with who was the other one? I'm drawing a blank right now. It'll come to me. But yeah, the teams that step up from the Division II level, the bottom of Division I is way worse than the top of Division II. I really think this team is going to be around 500 in Horizon play. Is where I think I'm going to land on this team. Maybe a couple games under. They play 18 games or 20 games. I could see them being like 7-11 in Horizon play.
Yeah, I'm going and looking up. They only had 9 losses last year. They were 21-9, or 23-9 last season. I believe they won the conference tournament title, regular season title. They were 17-3 in conference last year. I mean, they were absolutely rolling under Corsaro. So
they have a chip on their shoulder. D2 to D1.
Yeah, 26-5 the year prior. Like they were They were absolutely rolling. I would wish I had looked into it more prior, but they also bring in a point guard from Wayne State, a D2 transfer from my neck of the woods, 32 minutes a game last season from Alec Millender, averaged 15.5 points, 2.5 boards, 3 assists, 1 steal per game, shot at 43.5% from deep. And also a Manhattan transfer, Briggs McLean, a 6'4" graduate senior who played 18 minutes last season for the Jaspers. Also from D2 Rockhurst, Tamaris Brown, 6'5" junior who played 27.5 minutes, 15.5 points, 6.5 boards, 1.5 assists last season. And from Thomas More, another D2 school, Nathan Didkovich, played 30 minutes a game, 12 points per game, 2 boards, shot at 35.5% from deep. 2 junior college transfers coming in. Caleb Hanna from Miami-Dade County College, 8.5 points, 4.5 boards, over 1 assist per game. And from Harcum Junior College, Ebenezer Ogo, who averaged 8 points per game and 7 rebounds, 2 blocks per game. He's a 6'11" sophomore. He's bringing in a ton of D2 transfers, but I'm sure he knows what the hell he's doing because he played probably against a bunch of these guys because they're pretty local. You got an Illinois school, a Michigan school, and I think that's a Pennsylvania school. So all within the footprint of where he was playing at. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have IU Indy like finishing out of the basement as well. I have both them and Detroit climbing out of the basement. I don't know how high I can have them, but I'm going to be relatively high on Indy too this year, the Jaguars.
And no, it was Lemoyne. I just looked it up. It was Lemoyne that I drew a blank on, coming up from D2 into D1 and holding their own around 500. We've seen it with Bellarmine. Bellarmine's done it as well. So
Merrimack.
multiple examples of teams or players coming from the D2 level and having success at the mid-major level.
Love the outlook for the IU Indy. They turned a new leaf. Love the outlook for their basketball program and new leadership. We move on to Milwaukee, the Panthers. Mac, Bart Lundy, speaking of coming up from D2, he was formerly the head coach at Queens when they were a D2 school.
Another one that was competitive right away in Division I, Queens. Yep.
Yeah. Milwaukee was 20-15 last season, 12-8 in conference. That was good for tied for 5th in the Horizon League last season. Milwaukee loses 3 starters from last year's team. BJ Freeman was a big hit. He's now, I think, Arizona State bound. 32 minutes, 21 points per game, 6.5 boards, 4 assists, over a steal per game last season. Markeith Browning, the second, hit the portal as well after playing 29 minutes, 8.5 points, 3.5 boards, 2.5 assists. And Elijah Jameson portaled out as well. 26.5 minutes, 9 points per game, 3 boards per game, 2.7 assists per game. Also in the portal, McCooey Riek and Zach Howell. And for the team last season, Langston Wilson, Dominic Ham, and Angelo Stewart are all out of eligibility coming into this year. They do bring in Louisiana transfer Tamus Fulks, who played 29.5 minutes a season ago, 10.5 points, almost 3 boards per game, 4.5 assists, over 1 steal last season for the Ragin' Cajuns. Coming in from Queens, where Lundy was formerly at. He's a redshirt senior, AJ McKee. So I'm sure Lundy had his paws in recruiting this kid into North Carolina. McKee, a redshirt senior, like I said, 31.5 minutes, averaged almost 19 points per game, 4 boards, 2.5 assists, 1.5 steal per game. Really like that grab in the portal. Also, Danilo Jovanic from Louisville played 8.5 minutes for the Cardinals, looking for a little bit of a bigger role. He might be coming off the bench for Milwaukee still, though. And John Lovelace transfers in conference from Youngstown State, a junior 6'8" forward, played 18 minutes a season ago, 6.5 points, almost 3 boards, shot at 46% from the field. They return redshirt senior Eric Pratt, who started last season, 27.5 minutes, 12.5 points per game, 3.3 boards, 2.2 assists per game. And also a returning contributor, Kentrell Pullian, a senior guard who played 28.5 minutes, 10.5 points, 4.5 boards, 2 assists per game. This is a relatively inexperienced front court. The backcourt's got a couple of transfers coming in, but they are all redshirt seniors who've all played at least 4 years of college basketball. I like the outlook of this team. Mac, how do you feel about Milwaukee this year?
I like Milwaukee a lot, and to note they bring back a good amount of production, top 3 in the league in terms of returning production. They also won 8 out of 9 or 9 out of 10 right down the stretch, and they took Oakland to the wire in that Horizon League final. I mean, we almost didn't get the Oakland run because Milwaukee almost beat them. I love Bart Lundy, what he did at Queens. They were always right there to win the Division II national championship, and back-to-back 20-win seasons at Milwaukee. I think he's got that thing going in the right direction. He's regarded in the coaching industry as a grinder because he works his ass off and he finds a way to win. And I think they're a Horizon contender. I think year 3 might be the year they break through and win the league.
Yeah, they return the third most minutes from a season ago, 58% of them, and they have by far the most experience entering this season in the Horizon League, Milwaukee, according to Bart Torvik. Like I said, I like the outlook of this backcourt. The front court's going to come along probably in the back half of the year, but there are also redshirt junior, a couple of seniors in the front court. Like, a lot of experience to go around. Milwaukee, I think, is going to be a contender too in the Horizon League. Ryan Hasty in the YouTube chat is also with us. Milwaukee will compete for the chip again this season.
Yep.
So moving on from Milwaukee, next up in alphabetical order for us is Northern Kentucky, the Norse. Last season, they were 18-15 overall, 12-8 in conference, which was good for tied for 5th with Milwaukee. We have from Northern Kentucky, Marquez Work, their leading scorer, departed from the team via transfer portal. He's Missouri bound, 36 minutes a game, 20 points per game, 2.5 boards, 2.5 assists, over a steal per game last season. Heartbeat, soul of the team. He transfers out alongside Michael Bradley, who's out of eligibility this season, who played 33.5 minutes last season for the Norse, 4.5 assists, 10 points per game. Cade Meyer, Cole Sherman, and Fiston Epasu also transfer out. Transferring in to Northern Kentucky is Dan Gerigser, who was a D2 transfer in from Michigan Tech, a 6'3 junior. Played 28 minutes a game last season, 15 points, 4.5 boards, over 2 assists per game, 34% from the field, or 34% from deep, 47% from the field. And also D2 transfer from Northern State, Josh Dilling, a 6'4 graduate senior guard who shot at 46% from 3, 52.5% from the field, played 35 minutes last season, 18.5 points, 4.5 boards, 4.5 assists. Those two transfer portal gets guards that were big time playmakers in the D2 level, paired up in the backcourt with long, lanky guards Sam Vinson and Trey Robinson. Vinson played 33 minutes a game last season, 13.5 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, 2.5 steals per game. And Trey Robinson, 6'6 graduate senior, 31 minutes last season, 11.5 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, almost 2 steals per game as well. This is another team on paper, Mac, that I like. How about you?
Yeah, and Northern Kentucky's always kind of the staple or right there in the hunt in this league. They got to the dance a couple years ago. They're always in the top 4, top 5. They're going to be there again. And they're at the top of the returning production of the Horizon. So Darren Horn, proven winner, won at Western Kentucky, got to an NCAA tournament, got to a Sweet 16. I'm with you. I like the backcourt. I think they got good size. They can play at multiple speeds, and I like the Norse right there with Milwaukee, man. I think those are 2 really good teams in this league.
Yeah, I think this team is definitely contending for a title. They've had a top 2 defensive efficiency in the Horizon League for 3 straight seasons under Darren Horn, and I like the returning continuity from this team. And like I said, they went out and they replaced the Marquez Warg loss with 2 playmakers from the D2 level. If they get one of them to translate a little bit, and just even if they're not the same score, if they can just distribute facilitate to this team, this team's going to be really good. They returned 4 starters from last year, or 3 starters from last year, but plenty of experience to roll around. Really like Northern Kentucky's squad this year as well. We move on to the Golden Grizz, the best nickname in college sports. Oakland Golden Grizzlies. Yes, Greg Kampe's squad last year pulled off the unthinkable, beat Kentucky in the NCAA tournament last season, and everybody's gone. Yeah, this is going to be a little bit of a tough season. They lose 4 starters from last season's squad. My buddy Trey Townsend played 36.5 minutes last season, 17.5 points, 8 boards, 3 assists, over a steal per game. He transferred to Arizona. Chris Conway also transferred out west, 27 minutes a game last season, 10 points, 4 boards. Jack Golke, the money man from 3, 31.5 minutes per game last season, 13 points, 4 boards, 37.6% from 3, and like top 10 most threes taken last season. He's out of eligibility. Blake Lampman, who played 34.5 minutes, he's a coach now, I believe. I know where he's at, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Played 34.5 minutes last season, 12.5 points, 3 boards, 3 assists. And Rocket Watts, he was kind of a steady contributor for the team last year, averaged 7.5 points. He is also out of eligibility, along with Evan Solomon, Michael Rogers, Tone Hunter, Osei Price, and Andre Polk, who hit the transfer portal out. Greg Kampe doing what he does, hits the junior college route, bringing in Chang Hoff, who made 110 three-pointers in the junior college level, 22 points per game, 3 rebounds, 4.3 assists at Western Oklahoma State. There is the Jack Golke replacement, Chang Hoff. Remember the name. They also, in the front court, to replace Trey Townsend, attempt to do it with Dang Majak, coming in from Indian River State, averaged 9 rebounds per game last season, 13.5 points, 1.5 assists. Jalen Jones comes in from Tennessee State, 25.5 minutes last season, 9 points, 4 boards, 2.5 assists. Cleveland State transfer in conference, Jason Woodrich, 6'7" graduate senior guard, who shot at 35.5% from 3, 21 minutes, 8 points, 3 boards per game last season. An NAI transfer from Canada, Malcolm Christie, took 11 three-pointers per game, according to Jim Root's stat sheet. Awesome shit from Greg Kampe in the transfer portal. I love it. Also from Western Oklahoma State, the brother of Chang Hoff, Jack Hoff. Didn't even realize this. He made 68 three-pointers last season, averaged 18 points per game, 3 boards, 3.3 assists. This is going to be a fun team again. Jeremiah Bembry, who comes in from West Virginia, by God, right, Mac? And then Alan David Mukeba comes in from UMKC after playing 15 minutes for the Roos last season, averaged 7 points, 4 boards, 54% from the field. Look, it's a Greg Kampe squad. Defense is going to be questionable, but they're going to chuck up a ton of threes. DQ Cole returns, probably going to be the starting point guard this season. Played 23 minutes a game last season, 8.5 points, 4 boards, 2 assists. Shot at 36% from the field, 36% from 3, 47% from the field. Mac, can Oakland do it again, or are they taking a slight step back this year?
Slight step back. Look back to 22, 23, and a couple of those other years. Here's what's going to happen with Oakland. They're going to take it on the chin big time in the non-con because Greg Kampe always plays a cupcake schedule, right? Yeah, not. If
Last year, they were all over the place.
Dude, it's every year with Kampe. Kampe plays like 6, 7 by. He'll play you like, you know how some coaches say, I'll play you anywhere, anytime. Kampe actually does that. At Boise, at Illinois, at Kansas. That's their first 3 games.
That's impressive. They played 6 bye games last year and against major competition. I know.
It's not done yet. They're at Toledo, top of the MAC team. The neutral game with Sparty in Detroit. And then they got Loyola Chicago, and then they're in Fayetteville. So, like, they're going to be –
against Cal. I forgot about that.
Yeah, you just look at the year 2 years ago when I think they were like 2-11, 2-10 headed into conference play. Then they finish 11-9. I think they're around fifth or sixth in the horizon this year. I think though with the way he's scheduled, they're going to be able to find themselves, find their identity with all these new pieces. Play that funky zone that they like to play.
Yeah.
And he's going to have. That's why he uses these bye games to tinker with what's going to work come March. And it was good to finally see. This is one of the best stories for him to get to the dance and then win a game and get in the national spotlight, because he's had some really good teams that have just not won the conference tournament. They've won regular season titles, and for him last year to win both was pretty cool in his 40th year. Yeah, they're going to be a team. I think I'm going to want it back come conference tournament time, but they're going to take their lumps early. I can tell you that.
Yeah, and honestly, they bring in the fourth most experience according to Torvik in the preseason in the Horizon League. I think you hit the nail on the head. This is probably a team that is going to get beat up pretty early, and they're going to compete in the Horizon League, and they're going to be fun. The offense is going to be very fun to watch. Looking at a lot of these pieces coming in, that's Kampe in the portal for recent years. So. Awesome stuff from Oakland. I was a little disappointed that a lot of the guys that I've known for a few years that played for Oakland are out, but
yeah,
looks like a fun new core for Oakland. Let's move on to Romo, the Robert Morris Colonials. From last season, this was a team that kind of jumped up early and then something happened and they fell apart late. Like they were feisty in the non-conference and then just didn't have it in the Horizon League. They were 10-22 overall, 6-14 in conference, which was good for ninth here. Robert Morris does bring back Justice Williams, who was a big time transfer get. I think he was a Morehead State or LSU. I can't remember, one of the two. 30 minutes per game last season, 12.5 points, 3 boards, 2.5 assists a season ago, 31.5% from three. But he's the only returning starter. So
wow.
you have Marquise Hastings, who's gone out of eligibility, averaged 14.5 points, 8 boards, 1.5 assists. He's out the door, along with Stephen Walker, Josh Corbin, Jackson Last, and TJ Wainwright, who all played 20 minutes or more last season. They're all in the transfer portal, along with Trey James, Alfredo Boglio, and Ben Christo Kowiak. They're all in the transfer portal. To pair along with Justice Williams, who's a 6'4" senior guard that returns for Romo, is Cam Woods, an NC State transfer, 6'2" senior guard, played 7.5 minutes for the Wolfpack last season, Final Four. He was able to experience that fun last season. And also a Marion Dickerson, who's a 6'7" junior guard who played for Mineral Area Junior College last season. 12.5 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, almost 2 assists. A relatively inexperienced front court. Chris Ford, a senior who's 6'5", 16 minutes a game last season, and Alvaro Folgueras, who played 18 minutes a season ago. He's only a sophomore, averaged 5.5, 4.5, and over 1 assist a game last season. Mac, what are your feelings on Robert Morris entering to the season under Andy Toole?
Yeah, man, it's kind of been disappointing these last couple of years, and I know we talked about it last year at one point. They were really good in the NEC. They were a top 4, top 3 team. They've won it multiple times, and they just have not been the same since coming over to the Horizon and the step up. They've kind of struggled. Struggled is a kind of way of saying it. 8 wins, and they jumped up 2 years ago to 16-10, back down to 10 last year. They have not had the consistency at Robert Morris. I kind of think that they're still in the bottom third of this league. I just can't. I'm not excited about the roster. I think Andy Toole's a good coach. I just think that for whatever reason they've struggled coming up from the NEC to the Horizon.
Yeah, I think you're correct there, and I mean, like you said, they were a pretty good program in the NEC. The jump up to the Horizon kind of hit them in the mouth. Their best year was 500 with a 10-10 record, 16-17 overall. They've never had a top half offense in the Horizon League since COVID. I think this is a bottom half team. Justice Williams and Cam Woods provide some upside, so they're not going to be in the basement for me, but young front court, some guys that really didn't contribute at the D1 level last season. I got some questions about Romo, so they're going to be in the bottom half of my predicted standings in the Horizon League. The penultimate team here in the Horizon League, the Wright State Raiders. These guys, I've liked Wright State. Recruited me in baseball, I will say. The Raiders campus was great. I enjoyed my time. They promote from within. As we talked about, Scott Nagy is out and Clint Sargent is in, promoted from within, right, Mac? So they return they lose the 2 star guards last year, Trey Calvin and Tanner Holden. Calvin 35.5 minutes last season, 19.5 points, 4 assists. And Tanner Holden, 33 minutes, 16.5 points, 6.5 boards, 3.5 assists. They also lose A.J. Brown, who averaged 25.5 minutes, 12 points, 6 boards. Caden Brown, Dejuan Anderson, and Carson Schweiger all hit the transfer portal. Coming in from the transfer portal, honestly, not too much. You have Jack Dumbia coming in from Norfolk State, averaged 13 minutes there. Michael Amarigbe coming in from Houston Christian, averaged 11.5 points, 8.5 boards, 1 assist as a redshirt senior, 6'7" forward in 28.5 minutes. And Ben Sutherland from Liberty played 6 minutes a game last season. For the most part, Clint Sargent did an all right job in keeping this roster intact. I think he kept most of the pieces that he could. Outside of the guys losing eligibility, there was one guy that contributed last year that hit the portal, but this team does return 2 starters. So,
yeah, and for those that don't know Clint Sargent, he's been with Coach Nagy since his South Dakota State days. So he played under Nagy at South Dakota State. So he's been there every step of the way, multiple stops. They've been a top 4, top 5 program year in and year out. Been in NCAA tournaments. They win about 65 to 70% of their games here in this league. So I think Wright State's not going to take a step back just because Nagy left. I know Nagy's a great coach, but I think Sargent just steps right in. I just think they have an identity at Wright State. You know what you're getting. They're going to play efficient offensive basketball. They're going to be disciplined defensively as well, and it's just going to be a well-coached team and a well-oiled machine year in and year out. So I like Wright State again to be a top 5 team in this league.
Yeah, I've read and heard some things on the Horizon League just in preparation of this show that had Wright State slip into the middle of the pack and maybe even the bottom half of the conference standings. Under Scott Nagy and, of course, Clint Sargent, this team had never finished with less than 10 wins. And one season they were 10-10. One season they were 11-9. Other than that, 13 wins, 14 wins, 15 wins, 16 wins, 15 wins. Wright State is more than like a buoy in this program. They've been up there competing for titles every single season.
100%.
I don't know if they're exactly competing for a title this year. I like a couple of teams more on paper, but I'm definitely not underestimating the squad. So I'm going to have them in the top half of the conference.
Yeah, and it's like you said, I don't think they're going to win it, but you know what you're getting with them. They're going to be around that 12-8, maybe on a good year 13-7, just solid program, top 4 team, top 5 team every year.
Yeah, and let's talk about another team with a new coach and former coach Jared Calhoun had built this program kind of from the ground up, and they do lose quite a few contributors from last season. I believe all 5 starters. Yeah, all 5 starters are all gone. DJ Burns, who put up 13 points per game, 11 boards, 2.5 assists, he's transferred out. along with John Lovelace Jr. and Anthony Breland, who hit the transfer portal. Out of eligibility were Brett Thompson, who put up 12.5 points, 4 assists, 3 boards in 31 minutes last season. Ziggy Reed, 28.5 minutes, 14.5 points, 5 boards, 2 assists. Bryson Langdon, who played 26 minutes, averaged 8 points, 3.5 assists, and Brandon Rush in 26.5 minutes, 11.5 points, 4 boards. Big hits all over the place. Mac, what can you tell us about Ethan Faulkner to cheer us up here on the Youngstown State roster?
Yeah, so similar to Sargent, Faulkner was there every step of the way with Calhoun. He got there in 2019 with them. He's had experience at the Division II, Division III level. Known as another grinder in this business and well respected. I like hiring within. When you've had success, you've built it from the complete dumpster fire that Youngstown was 5 years ago into back to back first and second place finishes right there to win the league. I like promoting within to keep that continuity in the program. So I like Faulkner, and I also like that he brought in some former Division II, or they were Division II head coaches onto his staff. So kind of a younger guy bringing in some experience around him. I like Youngstown to still stay competitive in this league. I don't think the old Youngstown's going to come back just because Faulkner took over. I still think they're going to be competitive. Yes, this year they lost a lot. It's a lot of pieces to replace from last 2 years great teams, but I still think Youngstown will be competitive in this league.
Yeah, so one thing that just what's been established in the Youngstown State culture is they attack the glass hard. They bring in a bunch of guys that can rebound. They hit the transfer portal. Jason Nelson comes in from VCU, 1.5 boards per game in 20 minutes as a 5'10 guard, 5 points per game, shot at 33% from deep. Ty Harper from NAIA Masters down there in Georgia, 21.5 points per game, 3.5 boards per game, 2 assists, shot at 47% from the field. He's a fifth-year senior, also a fifth-year senior coming in from Canisius, CM Ujental. He's 32.5 minutes per game last season, 13.5 points, 3.5 boards, over 2 assists a game, 1.5 steals per game, 38% from 3. And coming in from Sacred Heart, another fifth-year senior, Nico Gillette, who averaged 7.5 boards, 13.5 points, and 28 minutes per game last season, 2 steals as a 6'6 forward per game. And then Gabe Dines returns after putting up 4 boards in 13.5 minutes. This team has finished top 3 in offensive efficiency the last 3 years. They finished top 3 in the conference in rebounding rate the last 3 years. Those are things that are going to, I think, remain pretty consistent with this team. I don't trust Youngstown State's culture as much as I do Wright State's. I think they also take a slight step back. And Youngstown State's probably going to be the middle of the pack for me, whereas Wright State, I feel better about staying afloat in the top half. Youngstown State's probably in the middle for me. Slight step into the bottom half, maybe, but I think the Flightless Birds are going to be fine. They're going to be really good at home. They turned that home atmosphere into a really good, like I said, atmosphere. So Youngstown State, I think it's a slight step back this year, but overall, I think they did well hiring within. Anything else that you want to add about the Flightless Birds, Mac?
Jared Calhoun, former Bob Huggins assistant coach. So yeah, no wonder they're able to rebound the ball. That's the culture of the Hugs tree, and I like for them to continue on the winning ways at Youngstown. I'm with you. I think they're in the middle of the pack this year, just year one.
All righty, you ready to get into this? Our predictions for the Horizon League this season. So basically, the practice here is we're ranking these teams how well we feel about them here in the preseason. That's going to help us. We talked about it earlier on TC Trim for us betting these teams on a daily in November and December. But at the same time, we're also trying to predict how they're going to finish come March. So it's a little bit of a balancing act between the two. But Matt, go ahead and take it away. Start us off with your 11th place prediction finisher.
The Phoenix will not rise. Phoenix will fall big time. Green Bay 11th for me. Doug Gottlieb's first year. Humbled quickly.
I am right there with you. Is it just a 1-year dance?
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be. Very well could be.
Yes. That's my prediction. I don't even think it's that bold. I think it's just a 1-year Gottlieb experiment. The experiment does not do well, and Green Bay is looking for a new coach next season as well.
Sundance Wicks was only there 1 year, but he went on to a promotion. We'll see what happens with Gottlieb.
Yeah. 10 for you.
Kills me, man. I got to put Bob Morris there.
Yeah, me too. I have Robert Morris 10th as well.
Number 9, the Hospital's out of the basement into the 9 hole.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Lockstep, every position so far. I got Detroit Mercy at 9th. The Hospital 9th. Mercy.
I think we're going to agree. I think we're going to agree again. Former Ooey Pooey, the IU Indy Caruso's year 1. I think that they're right there, competitive. This would be a great year if they could get up there to like the 8th seed.
Let's go. We are agreeing here. I have IU Indy at 8th as well. That's a positive season for them as well.
Hell yeah, them and Detroit getting out of the basement.
Yeah.
At number 7, this one's going to shock a lot of people. Kampe and Oakland, I think, take a step back. They're peaking, though, at the right time for conference tournament time. I have Oakland finishing 7th in the regular season.
Okay. I am going to say my prediction will shock some people as well. I have Cleveland State. Not by nature of me thinking that they're going to have much of a negative season. I just think that the top 7 in this league are going to be on a plateau with each other, and just 1 or 2 games are going to separate a lot of them. So Cleveland State is the negative beneficiary of a good conference, in my opinion.
I need to stop saying teams are going to be in the top 5 on the first game to give away, because I have Cleveland State at 6. I always do that. I'm like, oh, they're going to be top 5, and then I'm like, oh, there's a lot of top 5s. But if you look at the projections, 1 through 7, like you said, are going to be separated by 2 games.
3 games.
Yeah, 3 games. Yep.
So you have Cleveland State at 6?
I do have Cleveland State at 6.
I have Youngstown State at 6, right there in the middle of the conference. They got enough of a culture that keeps them afloat. Like I said, not top half, not bottom half. They're right there.
I had the Penguins at 5, Faulkner's first year, right around that 11 to 9 range in league play.
The Flightless Birds. So at 5 for me, I have Oakland. I think it's a slight step back for them, but I do think that they're like, I think you had a perfect handicap earlier. Like, they're going to get beat up in the non-conference. They're going to figure out some roles, and they're going to be a fun offense in the Horizon League. The matchup zone always fucks up everybody on short preparation. So I think they're a feisty team in conference play, and then in the tournament is when they do damage.
All right, top 4 time. I got Wright State at 4. Like I said, they're always top 4. So Clint Sargent and company get 4th for me.
Yeah. I am going Wright State as well. I have Wright State at 4. The Raiders.
I have the Norse of Northern Kentucky with all that production coming back, finishing 3rd under Darren Horn.
Me too. We are, for the most part, just 3 differentiations, if that's even a word, from these conference standings. I got Northern Kentucky at 2.
At 2, got the Mastodons of Fort Wayne. I love what Jon Coffman's got coming back. I got them in the 2 spot for me.
This is where we differ. I have Milwaukee at 2, and I got Purdue Fort Wayne winning the conference.
And I had Milwaukee and Bart Lundy winning the regular season. So we're flipped on 1 and 2, and we agree on a lot in this league.
Yes, we do. I didn't even think that it was. I didn't even know firsthand that it was going to go like that. But Horizon League, always a fun league. Can't wait for this season. Mac, conference tournament title. Who's representing this league come the big dance.
Who's had heartbreak in this lately? Youngstown?
Milwaukee.
Do they win the regular season and postseason?
I think Milwaukee's come up short a couple of times.
I'm with you. Bart Lundy and company get to the dance. I think he breaks through in year 3.
So I think they were
lost a title game too.
They were a 3 seed in 2023. They lost the title game in 2024. In 2022.
So back-to-back semis.
Oh, in 2022 wasn't Lundy yet, I don't think.
Yeah, so Lundy's semis, finals, one more step, he wins it. I'm with you. Let's go.
It was just kind of top of my head memory. I think Milwaukee would be my pick. Yeah, I'm gonna go Milwaukee with you as the tournament title winner. Sleeper in this.
Sleeper and bust.
What'd you say?
I said I think we have the same sleeper and bust.
Yeah, sleeper. We're both in the same. So Green Bay last year, they were 18-14, 13-7 in conference. We both have them busting.
And you could throw Oakland. You could throw Oakland in there for me if they finish 7th. They won it, and they won an NCAA tournament game.
Yeah, they swept the Horizon League last year, and yeah, that would be a bust season. I think finishing in 7th. I think, that's the bust for sure. The sleeper for us this season would be, for me, Purdue Fort Wayne. I have them winning the conference. Last year they finished tied for 7th.
I guess mine would be Milwaukee, but I kind of want to say IU Indy for mine. I'd sit and basically you as well.
We were both. Yeah,
that like we're saying that they're going to be competitive. I think that's a sleeper take.
Yeah, I'll give it to us from 10th to 8th. It's not as pretty or as sexy as a sleeper, but IUPY has been a terrible program. IU Indy.
A little name change.
Yeah.
Are they still the Jaguars?
Picks up the mojo. Yeah, they're still the Jags, but yeah.
That ain't working in the NFL, so hopefully they're a little better than Trevor Lawrence.
There you go. I don't know if they have a football team or not. I don't know what's going on with that athletic department, but football success, I guess you can count it from the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're sucking right now. The Jaguars basketball team is going to be good. That's the Colby rule, right?
No doubt. Let's go.
All right. That's going to wrap up today's Horizon League basketball preview. Myself, Noah Bieniek. You can follow me on Twitter at NoahB77_ or my good friend here, co-host Ryan McIntyre at Moneyline_Mac. We're previewing all 31 college basketball conferences here in the preseason. This is number 18 down. We've got 13 to go. You can find all of those in a nice little playlist on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is the College Experience -SGPN. In the playlist, you can find the TCE trims, where we're basically taking the biggest news headlines out of the college basketball preseason, doing a separate show, about 20 minutes long, roughly, for each of them on a certain news topic. Max coaching interviews from the summer and the early fall. You can find those at the Summer School Coaches Tour in the YouTube playlist as well. You can also find the College Football Experience, the FCS College Football Experience, the Big 12 College Experience, the College Baseball Experience, or there's plenty more shows from SGPN. Whether you are interested in betting on the NHL, you got the NHL Gambling Podcast, the NBA Gambling Podcast, the MLB Gambling Podcast, or the Sports Gambling Podcast, who talks about NFL daily and also dips their toes into the biggest sporting events of the calendar year. This has been the College Basketball Experience. You better start thinking about yours, and we out of here.